Welcome back to Matter of Facts podcast, right in the middle of having a sip of disaster coffee, because most days that is the only thing that allows me to mimic adult behavior for a full, for a full shift.
Yeah, I was definitely extra into the coffee today at work too. It's been a long
Yeah.
week. But
I actually, right
Friday
before we
tomorrow.
went live, I sent you something on Instagram. It's tea drinkers versus coffee drinkers.
I'll have to look at that later.
You'll appreciate it, especially if you have a
probably
tea
will.
drinker in your life. You'll understand.
I am a tea drinker in my life. I love me a nice Earl Grey.
Yeah, I'm definitely the coffee drinker in every room. Apparently,
Nice.
when I was at work today, I was literally making a cup of coffee at the Keurig in the break room, and somebody mentioned just in passing, like, "Hey, I was buying a coffee frother the other day, and I just thought of you." And I was like,
You're the coffee guy at work.
I am the coffee guy at work. A few people have accidentally stumbled into my weaponized autism and started a conversation about coffee, and yeah, trauma dumping is a thing apparently.
It's fine. They wanted it. They started it.
I mean, they definitely asked for it, whether they intended to or not.
That's all right. They learned something, and that means they can be done for the day.
Yeah. All right. In the chat, looks like Raggle Fraggle. I see Alpha Charlie Concepts, Jim Rowles, and we might get a special surprise from Andrew, who's currently doing an internship drilling on the North Slope for zombie worms. But he said he might pop in on us, maybe, if it wasn't past his bedtime.
I demand harassment from Andrew.
I mean, demand is strong. I mean, I will say that, like, not to put his business out in the street, but like he's been adulting and he's starting to get things. Well, I was going to say he's starting to get things settled, but things are just getting crazier by the minute for him in a good way.
Oh, yeah. In a very good way.
Transitionary period in his life. And, sometimes you just got to take a step back from goofing off with your friends and focus on things. Oh, Jeff Jag is in the chat. We are not starting over. Neither you nor Stuart are going to make us start over. We are going to do admin work really quick, and then we're going to talk about some patron business, and then we're going to get to a topic. So in a little bit of a different order, because the patrons get talked about last this time.
They do.
Merch, links are in the show description. Southern Gals. Supports small business, supports the podcast. You should consider it.
Help me harass them to do hats.
Yes, we have asked them about hats, and I'm not pushing real hard on the hats right this minute because
by harass, I mean politely poke at them like, hey, do you do this?
Well, okay, so between your household and my household and the Southern Gals household, there are 3 teachers in those 3 households that have just started the school year. So it's rough. Yeah, and anybody has a spouse or is in fact a teacher themselves knows that this time of year is like DEFCON 2.
Pray for me, San Moscato.
Yes, there shall be no new business discussed until the next meeting.
Correct.
But Cypress Survivalist, that link is also in the show description. We have a camping trip coming up in November, and that will probably be the last event we do for the year because we had to push it back so far to make sure we'd have cool weather. But it means that we'll be looking forward to our next Get Ready event next year.
Nice. That'll be a good time.
Now, patrons. First of all, we have a new patron. I'm calling him Scott number 2 because I don't want to bust out his last name on the public show. But
perhaps
he is a Scott.
Scott Alpha? Well, we have a Scott number 1.
We do have a Scott number 1. This is Scott number 2. I just sent him the welcome messages, invited him into the Signal chat. Haven't heard back from him yet. Maybe he'll hear this and he'll reach out. But Scott,
hopefully he has an eye patch.
Yeah, but Scott number 2, if you're out there and you're interested, we have a Signal chat. All the patrons are in there. You can harass them. They'll harass you, and you can harass us. So there's lots of harassment going on.
Believe everything Eddie says and ignore Phil.
No, believe nothing Eddie says, and at least half of what Stuart says.
Okay, but Stuart's usually academically correct.
That's
so
why
should probably believe what he says.
That's why I said half.
Well,
speaking of old grumpy patrons, so what happened recently? One of the perks of being a patron is that in an effort to control cost and bandwidth and everything else, I've always only left X number of podcast episodes available on the public feed. and then they get rolled off. And then those older episodes that are no longer on the public feed go back to the patron only feed that you can access through Patreon, or you can drop that RSS link into your favorite little podcast application. And it was recently pointed out to me that in an effort to like kind of leave more meat on the bones for the higher tiers, I had set some episodes to where you can only access them at like the $10 or the $20 levels.
Sure.
And due to the patrons bullying me, I revised that. So the first episodes 1 through 50 of the show, which at this point are like 8 years old.
They are.
Those are available to all pay levels, and I'll probably be revising that as I go forward. Just to kind of like leave it out there so that a patron at any level has access to all those shows, and you just throw $1 in the tip jar if you feel like it's worth it.
Yeah. There's some good stuff from back in the day.
Yes.
There's also some harassment coming at you from Stuart for your views back in the day.
Among them was episode 2, I think, where I was talking about firearms, and I apparently said something about shotguns despite...
Extolled their virtues from my listening to it.
Yes. Despite me waiting 7.5 years longer to actually purchase one. And Old Grumpy, who is going to be his name from now on, crashed out a little bit at me.
He did have a bit of a fit, as it was almost a live feed of Stuart's stream of consciousness on the Signal chat of him realizing Phil was discussing the virtues of shotguns to then determining the exact math for how long it took for us to bully Phil into buying a shotgun. It was fantastic. He got more and more upset as the further he went into that episode.
Yes. Now, to be fair, first of all, I actually didn't take his advice because he was telling me to get a pump action with like multiple barrels so I could reconfigure it to be like, you know, a bird gun or a home defense gun. And I didn't do that. I just went and got a Beretta because I wanted one.
I mean, I can't argue with the logic of a pump gun with a rifled barrel, with a long goose barrel, and with a close-in home defense barrel. As far as utility goes, dollar for dollar, you're not going to beat that combo. You're just not. You're not going to beat that combo in capability. But do you hunt geese?
Mm-mm.
Do you plan to hunt geese or ducks?
Are geese and ducks euphemisms for people attempting to take things that are not theirs? Not likely, but maybe.
Yeah, it's always a possibility. But
I mean,
let's just say
I got a case of birdshot sitting back there on the shelf and a choke for it. But
right. You know, it's one of those things that, yes, it is definitely a useful thing to have. Do I have a goose barrel for my pump shotgun? I absolutely do.
Do you?
Mostly because I have hunted geese in the past, and I have hunted ducks in the past, and I have hunted pheasants, which turns out when you come from the world of 3-gun shooting and you engage a pheasant until it drops, there's not much left of the pheasant because inertia is a motherfucker and keeps that bird in the air a lot longer than you think it's gonna. So I went out hunting pheasants one time with a buddy of mine from high school and his dad. They had a guy drop out and they're like, "Do you know any gun guys?" And he called me, said, "Do you want to hunt pheasants tomorrow morning? You got to be to my house at 3 a.m." And I was like, "Yeah, why not? I've got some game loads. Let's go." First pheasant that popped up in my zone, pulled up on it, clack, pump, clack, empty. Because the bird was still flying horizontal at the time.
Was it flying horizontal, Nick, or was it falling horizontal?
There was horizontal motion. It had not fallen over like the 3-gun targets traditionally do after the first shot. So I was like, shit, miss, shit, miss, shit, miss. No, 2/3 of the bird was gone. I didn't miss. That was a learning opportunity.
I was about to say, learning occurred that day, apparently.
Oh, 100%. Got that bird, though.
So anyway, like that's just, yes, the patrons in the Signal chat do have the ability to harass me and remind me of things. And Stuart recently brought up something about statute of limitations on a squib round, and I can only imagine he's referring to the squib that I loaded up in my 308 Winchester, which I've told that story on several occasions. Somehow this freaking rocket surgeon managed to load in a whole pile of match grade, hand loaded, hand weighed, individual attention type of rounds. Because this was part of that load of ammo that would stack 4 rounds on top of each other at 100 yards.
Nice.
I somehow managed to put together one that had no powder in it.
An aggressive choice.
But here's how I discovered this. Okay. I'm down in the prone, like belly on the ground, butt in the air, on a shooting mat, on a bipod, all locked in, putting rounds on target, just trying to make like nice small groups, work on my fundamentals and everything. And I slide that bolt forward home with my thumb. I click it down. I get back into my position. I breathe a couple times, steady myself. I ease that trigger back ever so slowly, and I hear the loudest click on earth. And let me tell you, gun. when there's a 308 Winchester right here, and you're expecting to hear boom, and then the scrabbling of the bipod on the pavement, and the thump of the butt pad in your shoulder, and all you hear is click and nothing. It's loud.
Oh yeah,
it's
there is nothing louder than an empty gun.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, I had the immediate presence of mind to realize that if what I had on my hands was a hang fire and not a squib, I really wanted to leave the bolt shut for a second or two because I didn't want to open it up with my face right next to it. And then I, opened it up, saw the primer strike, the round. I mean, like the bullet was still seated. The bullet never moved.
That's impressive.
Yeah, especially because when I took that round home and tore it apart, the entire case was filled with soot. The primer discharged. But it apparently didn't make enough gas to move the bullet.
Well, I would say your crimp was on point.
Oh, yeah. Neck tension was like chef's kiss. But, yeah, my dumb behind managed to not put a grain of powder in that whole case. And it is the only time I have ever done that. I have accidentally loaded up some 357 Magnum when the cases were a little bit damp, and that made some very interesting things happen. But that was the only squib I've had. And I don't know why.
I've had it happen in 9 and 45 with when I did my first batches through my Hortony lock and load AP progressive press. Yeah, Jim's right. Primers do make a pretty loud pop, but if you're double plug shooting heavy rifles, it's a very quiet pop, but you hear the mechanical click of the primer through your jaw.
Yeah. I honestly, I never even heard the primer, which would make sense if the bullet didn't move. I mean, the noise was contained within the case, within the action. Yeah. The biggest thing, I mean, like I said, the loudest thing I heard was just the sound of that striker whacking that, whacking the primer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe in my mind it was louder than it was, but it was loud.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know, man. If you ever misload a mag on the range and you get that click in your pistol, and it is just wildly loud compared to thunderous silence. Expecting. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. It's the absolute weirdest thing. And it's the only sound you hear when it happens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, so if Stuart's not talking about that squib, I'm sure he'll tell me later, correct me, and want to call me out or bruise me up in public over it. But, I wear my scars on my sleeve very often because if I've made a mistake, I want to tell people about it because I don't want them to have to repeat the mistake to learn the lesson.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, to topic. So Raggle Fraggle kind of owns this one because he was asking us about slings, and then we somehow walked off the reservation just a little bit, decided to make it a whole episode about retention because
hey man, A and B go together. It's peanut butter and jelly. Gotta have slings, gotta have holsters.
I'm so glad you specified that because when you said A and B go together, my brain went someplace marital and not appropriate for the podcast. But anyway.
It's YouTube. It's fine. They have worse stuff on here. Trust me.
Not on my show, though. We try to be relatively family friendly.
We do.
Mostly.
But
anyway. So I think we're going to start off with holsters.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a good old argument about that we already started. Then we'll move into slings.
That's true. We are good at starting arguments before the show.
Well, but the truth of the matter is, you and I already started having this conversation because, to me, holsters fall you can make the argument of holsters can be like inside the waistband, outside the waistband, but honestly, the categories I throw all holsters into, is it passive or is it active retention?
I would agree with the two categories. Is it passive or is it active retention? And from there, it's subcategories.
I'll give you
Does that make
that.
sense?
Yeah,
Because like you know, you've got your full kydex there of your outside the waistband. Got your hybrid, you know, crossbreed kydex leather inside the waistband. You got
I didn't
full
throw my
kydex
hybrid in here.
inside the waistband. That's the minimalist. By the way, these are uncomfortable as shit. If you
That's
have
why
an aggressively stippled grip, skip it. Save your money.
I will say, as far as that goes, that's why I switched out the grips on that on my carry gun, because what I had on there at one time was ungodly uncomfortable. And when we had a gentleman from Lock Grips come on, he recommended these, which they're
Nice.
they're a little bit more forgiving up against my soft, my soft side, but still tons and tons of texture.
I have sanded down the grip on my M&P twice because I cannot wear that thing without an undershirt.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got that grip up against my side, it just sandpapers my skin away. I mean, it's a fantastic grip because it doesn't move in your hands at all. But I like having skin on my body generally.
Overrated.
Yeah. Raggle is correct. Stealth Gear holsters, purely because of how comfortable they are. I've got a Stealth Gear Vent Core 2 that I wear every day. Winter, summer, fall, spring, whatever. Holy shit, is that a comfortable holster. I know people dunk on them in Alien Gear. I mean, this is one of the Alien Gear hybrids that I wore to death. There's actually a few cracks in the kydex. I need to replace the shell on this one for my XDS, I think it is. But I have now had two of the Alien Gear Vent Core holsters. I've got their Vent Core 2 now. My God, comfortable.
I've still got an Alien Gear knocking around someplace, and
they're good for a cheap holster.
They are good for a cheap holster. I got away from them because I found, at least for the way I'm shaped, that Alien Gear really was like the most comfortable at like 4 o'clock, like kind of like right on top of the kidney, but not small of the back. But you know why I
got away from them?
Just behind your midline. Why?
See how there's no backing over those screws?
Yeah.
Eventually, as you tighten this thing down, as the kydex wears in and the leather wears in, you've got these screws just eating into your side and eating through the waistband of your underpants.
You got a grinder.
Oh, I do. And I have ground these down. But at a certain point, you need a certain amount of thread in that little fitting there. And these little fittings, they don't look like it, but they're kind of sharp and they're kind of uncomfortable. Where the vent core's got a whole thing behind this that these are sunk down into. I've never had a vent core wear in so bad that you even notice these things not wearing an undershirt.
My big issue was always that, like, there were, especially like, you know, going to pick up my daughter from school and everything, there were so many places I was having to go where I had to unholster. Yeah. It became much, much simpler to have these single clip inside the waistbands, because I could literally, like, sitting in my truck, I could unholster, put the gun away, reholster sitting down. It got to the point where, like, they were just more utilitarian, even if the Alien Gears were very, very comfortable.
Yeah.
But the reason I divide things into these two categories, and I will imagine we're going to have a slight disagreement about it, but maybe not, is because I've always been very, very unyielding whenever we get into conversations about open carry versus concealed carry, that if you're going to open carry, I always demand retention holsters. Like, I have no use whatsoever for a person who's going to open carry a gun with passive retention only. And I'm not saying that to say, like, you shouldn't be allowed to. It's a free country in most places. Like, you should be allowed to do whatever you want within reason. I'm just saying that for me, if you're going to carry a gun where it's exposed and it's open and people might want to take them from you, as we've seen in plenty of clips all across social media, you probably should have a little something extra to make sure the gun stays in the holster until you're ready to pull it out.
Well, let's just talk about environmental factors before you're even considering people taking the gun from you, which, let's be honest, can happen in an active retention holster if the person understands what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're getting in and out of your car? I'm the primary driver. I'm right-handed. I'm getting in and out of my car. That gun could be bumping any number of things getting in and out of the car. Do I need, now I don't carry a 320, so it's not so much of an issue, but do I need that thing falling and knocking into the ground? No. Do I want to have to, like, if I'm walking around in the woods, deal with my gun getting caught on a stick and coming out of the holster? Because I've had all kinds of crazy shit get caught on sticks and pull out of things in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to have an exposed sidearm, I do think that active retention is probably your best bet.
Yeah, and like you and I talked about before, like I've done enough draw strokes on the clock between active retention and passive retention to know that active retention costs me a couple tenths of a second on a draw, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I am perfectly comfortable trading a little bit slower draw to make sure that in odd situations, like with a woods gun, or like that little J-frame of the ankle holster. I mean, that has a retention strap and a snap across the back of it because it's on my ankle, and it's
as it should.
And it would be extremely socially awkward if I were like wearing slacks and dancing with my wife, and the next thing I know, my J-frame comes rolling out the bottom of my pant leg on the dance floor.
Depends on how cool the wedding party is.
Well, I mean, I'm not an FBI agent, so I'm pretty sure I can't get away with that.
That was a nightclub for one.
And it was a backflip, I know.
It was. Which, still, dude, active retention if you're going to be pulling backflips on the dance floor. Sick moves, but not okay.
Massive douche canoe. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. Just made himself look like a complete idiot.
Well, I mean, doing backflips on dance floor is a pretty good indication right there by itself.
I don't know, man. I got some buddies with some pretty sick moves from the one time I attempted to go clubbing.
I'll give you that.
Pulled it off.
But that one was douche canoe.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like, that's just kind of the way I feel about it. Like, if you're going to conceal carry, like inside, outside the waistband, passive retention, like do your thing. But I just think that there's an argument to be made for active retention in certain situations. Like, my only gripe is that if you're into weird guns like CZs, finding active retention holsters can be a real pain in the behind if you wander away from Glocks and Smith & Wesson M&Ps.
There is a benefit to going with a mainstream popular striker fired pistol. There is. There's going to be more end user support. That just means you're going to have to pay a little bit more for your holsters, probably, and you're going to have less selection.
I will say that when I got that Alien Gear holster made for my PO9, I mean, that was a full custom job, and they had it to me in 2 weeks for like $140.
That's not bad.
I mean, admittedly, this was 5 years ago now, but I mean, I wasn't unhappy with it. You know, the only thing I'm unhappy about is that when I eventually cut that thing for a red dot, I'm gonna have to chop the holster up a little bit.
Yeah, or you could order a new one. I mean, you're not going to take the red dot off, so chop the holster up a bit and order a new holster anyway. Start training with the other one, and then get a new one properly made for it.
Yes, but I have a Dremel, and that basically makes me a gunsmith and a holster manufacturer, apparently.
The gunsmith part, that hurts in my soul. That hurts deep in my soul.
For those of you who are not watching the stream and hearing this in audio, Nick, I'm pretty sure I just saw Nick have a full body shiver.
That was a problem right there. That is a problem.
It'd be more of a problem.
You can do gunsmithing with a Dremel. Please don't. Please don't.
Please don't.
Yeah.
All right. Now, slings. So this is kind of what started us down this road with the topic was Raggle Fraggle. His actual question was, how do you put slings on older firearms that are not really like meant for I don't know if you want to say tactical or modern sling etiquette. Like, you know, there's a whole bunch of guns like this Ruger Hawkeye that had a sling swivel, two sling swivels are both on the bottom, and they're really meant for a carry strap. It's not really meant for a sling that's going to be like across your body you're going to be able to shoot from. It's just not, they're not meant for that.
It depends on how you're using it. But yeah, if you loop up like the old school, you know, Savannah hunters were doing, they actually work really well for that with the dual bottom swivel because it's going on your weak side arm, going on your left arm for most right-handed guys, your right arm for the left-handed guys.
Yeah.
But you're not doing the over the back and then through.
No. And this is probably like the least applicable image to put here. But
it's the most commonly used sling configuration in the country. I'd be willing to bet.
Yeah. And if I took that sling off the bottom of that bipod and attached it directly to the sling swivel, you'd have a sling setup that almost every firearm made before, like, I don't know, 2000 has that setup.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, and back to the earliest swing equipped muzzle loaders, which 90% of that was for carry.
Yeah. Now, I will wholeheartedly agree with you, and we're going to advance through these ever so slightly. So,
new school.
This is what I wanted to throw up next because I feel like this is kind of probably the best. Actually, no.
Oops.
No, you're right. Slightly modernized. Thank you, Nick.
It's got QDs, but only one QD needs to for full modern.
But here's the trick. It's not so much the QD on the front that I wanted to point out. It's the fact that the rear sling attachment is still ostensibly in about the same position. In this case, it's through a loop on the buttstock. The front sling swivel is actually off to the side, but you've got enough. But you have a more modern sling design, at least, that has a lot more adjustability to it. And this is actually, if I remember right, I sized this one specifically so that I can actually like run it around my body. I can loop it around my forearm. Like you can get into what we have some stock images that Nick provided us with later, but like a very stable shooting platform where you use the sling to help stabilize it on your body, to almost act like a third point of contact in addition to your hand and your shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or would that be fourth point?
Well, so essentially what you're doing is you've got hand, shoulder, and what you're doing mostly with a sling is bracing your elbow. So you're controlling the lever of your offhand to stabilize where that arm is. You're giving it a place to push against with your shoulder.
You know what? Let's go slightly out of order and show that.
So this is what I'm talking about with using a loop in a sling. This is kind of the old school way of bracing your arm. And I think you've got another one here that shows it a little bit better.
You can go.
Yeah, there it is. So this slide here, you see how the guy's got the loop of the sling up around his bicep? Essentially what you're able to do with that is you're able to apply tension with your arm just by varying your arm angle and finding a place where the rifle almost supports itself through the action that sling is putting on your arm, which will help you stabilize your shots quite a bit.
Yeah, and in a more modern context, like you can achieve most of this effect by simply wrapping the sling around your arm and then taking the webbing between your thumb and your forefinger and jamming it up underneath where the sling attaches to the sling swivel.
I've actually found if you size your sling correctly, you can, using your offhand forearm elbow, just apply pressure downwards and to the inside and apply tension on that sling over your shoulder and down under. And you don't actually have to manage anything else other than the fore end of the rifle. You can just apply that tension on there as you're riding the rifle, and you can get a very similar stabilization effect without having to loop your hand through the sling like you see in this this first image here. Not as good, but as far as like 3-gun shooting and you need to quick get in the sling, you know, you don't have time to set up like you're hunting wild boar or something like that. It can get pretty close.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, to me, I feel like you can achieve a lot of this with most long guns, with most sling setups, with appropriate sizing. Although I will happily admit, like, the biggest problem I find you run into with a lot of older firearms is it's not immediately where the sling swivels are located, it's the length of the sling itself.
True.
Like when the sling is really only sized to be used as a shoulder carry strap, it takes away so much of the utility of it from a retention standpoint, from a stabilization standpoint.
It does.
And if you have I want to say, like, if you have a modernized sling setup, but really the modernization is that there's just more adjustability built into the thing so that you can actually use it in different ways.
There is a lot more adjustability built into the modern ones, but the benefit of that is really coming from the nylon and the sliding keepers. Yeah, perfect. I was just going to ask you to pull that up. If you guys that have the video can look at this, great. If you don't, I'm going to try and describe it to you best I can. So
it's a Magpul. I think it's an MS1 with a QD added to it. Like,
honestly, this is one of the perfect sling designs in my opinion. The padded slings, they're nice, especially if you're going to be carrying your rifle long distance. But for utility and cost effectiveness, the Magpul sling hits just about perfect. You've got, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 sliding buckles there, so you can adjust your weapon in 4 different places and have retention of the extra material. I mean, the leather straps were typically hard limited at the butt end and had all the adjustment on the fore end. But as you can see from this image here, there's adjustability on both ends of the sling, which allows you to have almost, I would say, like a third more material for adjusting the sling length, depending on how you're going to be using it.
Yep. And that center swivel is quick adjustable. So, like, you can tighten this thing up to your heart's content. You can grab a fistful of it and put a lot of slack into it real fast. Like, there's all kinds of different things you can do to adjust this. Nice. Hang on a second. I don't think we have many of those down south. Appleseed is more of a northern thing. So,
yeah,
I will say,
Jeff brought up, if you want a class, find your nearest Appleseed project. Fantastic class. Have not taken one myself, but I've heard it highly recommended.
I will say this much though, Raggle Fraggle, I know where you live. They have Project Appleseed events in this state.
Ominous Santa.
I'm just saying, like, I know for a fact they have in the past. I haven't checked in a while because I was still looking into Project Appleseed, like when my daughter was showing some interest in shooting. She hasn't in a while. But at least the last I recall, they were still having events in 20, 30 minutes away from me, which isn't...
They're still having them in Illinois. I guarantee you they're having them in Louisiana.
Yeah, and I actually went to one in Arkansas. So, like, it was not too far from Lake DeGray, actually. So, like, they have Project Appleseed events in most places. I know they have them down here in Louisiana. You should look into them. Anybody that's watching, like... Project Appleseed is an organization that, like, I love the mission statement, but honestly, what I love as much of as the shooting is the fact that they mix this very classical marksmanship with all of, like, the Revolutionary period American history, and they get down into the details and the nitty gritty. They tell personal stories that came from people's diaries. It's a viewpoint of, like, the first shots of that war that you will almost never get in American history, classroom. It really was, like, to me, I took more away from the history lesson than I did the shooting, and I enjoyed the shooting thoroughly.
I bet.
I did not patch my first attempt.
Well, to be fair, I've seen their requirements. They are not loose requirements.
No. I would happily say that even back then when I did that event, like, I was usually a novice shooter. Like, it was not my first rodeo. I shot... I'd spent my time shooting AR-15s before, and that's what I brought to this event. But I did not patch. I got close, but I did not patch my first go-round.
I bet I could slay that. But I've been shooting a lot more than you were at the start. Yeah,
especially 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Okay.
Oh, man, 5 years ago, I was playing darts with a 30-06. At 300 yards.
I had just bought my truck.
Nice.
I had my truck like a month when I brought it up there. And thank God I had the truck because the the rock and dirt road to get to the gun range would have destroyed my little hatchback.
Well, you know what? You would be surprised. I have seen some Honda Civics in some places I would not take my 1500.
Okay, I had the only non-4-wheel drive truck, and apparently the guys were taking bets on whether or not they were going to have to tow me.
All right. That's a good road.
Yes.
That'd be a fun one.
Yep. Gas pedal and inertia. Gas pedal and inertia.
Hey, if you know how to use your truck, you can get a 2-wheel drive awful deep.
Yeah, it's the getting back out that's tricky sometimes.
Yeah, once you're stuck, you're screwed with 2-wheel drive because you got no more wheels to go. But see, that's the problem with 4-wheel drives.
Is when you get stuck, you're really stuck.
Oh, yeah, you are stuck. Usually you're high-centered. But
yeah. Anyway, moving on to the slightly modernized. This is, I put in here tactical. So this is probably the sling set that most people are trying to aim for. And I suspect this might have been what Raggle Fraggle had in mind when he said, how do you put this sling setup on like an older farm that was never meant for it? This is
wood screws.
Yeesh. But
no, seriously, man. What wood screws? How do you think those QD mounts are put into the wooden stocks? Pilot hole and a wood screw, man. I have a pack. I should have got them out. I don't know why I didn't. I have a pack of old school sling swivels. They have, I shit you not, a hardwood wood screw about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch long, probably closer to in the middle, 5/8. They tell you to drill a pilot hole with a 1/16 drill bit and then drive that bitch into your stock.
Okay, but if you drill a random hole and put a wood screw in some old beautiful thing like an M1 carbine or a Garand, I will personally drive to your house and punch you in the testicles. And it will be justified.
I mean, you can get replacement stocks for them very cheap.
Nick,
it's just
stop encouraging bad behavior. Stop.
If all you have is a Garand and a Dremel,
then give it to me and I will buy you a freaking poverty pony.
I was going to say, give it to me and I will build you a bracket to put the sling on it how you want, because I'd rather you not molest a Garand, but that's fine.
Okay, but Raggle,
That is what they use on AKs.
I used to be an AK guy, and we should probably do another AK episode one day, and I will walk you through how much like grinding and drilling and crap I've done on AKs, making stuff fit that didn't want to fit.
AKs, look, this is all I'm going to say about AKs.
What you got? Let it out.
AKs are a perfectly acceptable, mass-manufactured, bulk infantry charging weapon. They are not a modern carbine.
No.
They're not.
No.
Can they be made to function pretty close? Yes. Are they reliable? Undoubtedly, if they're manufactured correctly. I got nothing against AKs.
Actually.
Except modern carbines do everything the AK does more conveniently and more ergonomically.
Point of order, though.
Okay.
When you say manufactured properly,
I'm saying if all the tolerances are out of spec, it's going to be shit no matter what.
But, point of order.
Mm-hmm.
When you say tolerances and AK in the same sentence, you do have to admit, Mr. Machinist, that the tolerances are extremely generous.
Well, they are, but you still do have certain key tolerances, like the bolt tolerances in the headspace, are more critical than other tolerances. Yes, with an AKs have a wide open tolerance. They were built to be made as cheaply and as fast as possible, and given to people that had little to no training on them. For that,
and they were also
phenomenal.
They were also designed to be manufactured by people that hadn't manufactured anything more modern than a bolt gun.
Right, a bolt gun or a toaster.
Yeah, I mean, like, seriously, you look at the number of countries that the Soviet Union helped set up factories to make these things in. I mean, Romania, Egypt, Poland actually made some really nice ones, but that's neither here nor there. But
those were mostly milled AKs.
Yes, but my point is that, you know, the reason why making AK accessories has always been a little tricky is because every one of these countries made their AKs a little bit different.
They did.
And that is the genius of Kalashnikov's design, is that they can all be made a little bit different and a little bit sloppy, and they still work pretty okay enough.
True. Rigel says the design is over 70 years old, guys. The AR is not terribly far behind it.
I mean, the AR is 60 years old.
Exactly. And Rigel, yes, I will continue. And I do have a point
wait a second.
why I'm saying drill into your woodstock.
The AR-10 was designed in the 50s.
It was.
So the AR is
about the same. Yeah, it's about the same. I mean, I'm not exactly sure on the dates of both, but they're in the same ballpark. So
to round that out, though, before I let you go, the critical difference here is that the AK was built with 1930s technology and design principles. It was a semi-auto. Yeah. It was a modern design, but the way it's manufactured is 1930s technology. I mean,
correct.
You have to remember that before they made the AK mill. They made the AK mill because they couldn't get stamping to work right at first. They were trying to use stamping because the Germans had been doing it in the freaking 30s and 40s,
and the British were doing it with the Sten and a few others. Yep.
Yeah. So it was a modern application of a very current technology. Mm-hmm. And then everything Stoner did was space age stuff. Like it was literally he was designing a gun in the 50s that other manufacturers weren't going to embrace most of those technologies or even most of those building materials until the late 70s, early 80s.
True.
So Stoner was 20 to 30 years ahead of his time, and Kalashnikov was 10 years behind the technology trend.
Yes. But they both made a phenomenally effective fighting system.
Not taking anything away from either, just pointing out like that is why the AR, in my opinion, even though they weren't designed that far apart in time, I think the AR is no one would argue the AR is not a more modern design because it was so ahead of its time.
It was. Yeah, definitely. So, Raggle, the point I'm getting around to is if all you have is, say, a bolt-action rifle and you're looking to make it like a scout gun setup out of it, don't feel bad about putting a sling swivel, say, halfway back the forend in the side of the woodstock. And don't be afraid of relocating your rear sling swivel from the bottom rear right below the recoil pad to somewhere that's more convenient for how you're going to use it. If you're making like a brush gun or a stalking gun. Make the rifle fit your use case. And honestly, unless it's ultra rare collector's firearm, be damn the resale value of it, man. It's your gun, use it.
Oh no, I'm not concerned about retail. I just it just hurts my heart a little bit to see a person like drilling holes in a really nice old gun.
Sure, if it's a rare gun, but I mean, I've got 2 Mosins in my safe. Do I still have 2? I should check. I got a Mosin in my safe that I convinced into that I cobbled together into a sniper Mosin because enemy at the gates is pretty cool. I'm gonna slap a scope on it and make myself a bent handle bolt out of the original bolt. How many million of them damn things did they make?
Some people would say it's problematic if you can't remember how many guns you have.
To be fair, when I bought some number of Mosins, I did buy them by the crate at a time when they were $50 a pop or $200 for the crate.
So back in the day when you could trade like a case of Schlitz for a crate of them.
Dude, I got pulled over leaving a gun shop because I bought a pallet of Spam cans with another buddy of mine. And we got pulled over because we tarped a pallet of ammo in the back of my Chevy 1500.
Nice.
Turns out at that time they were really cheap, and I had just gotten my first big kid job. Same job I have now, believe it or not.
So you're still a big kid.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Listen, I'm convinced that men never mature past age 25.
Yep.
I mean, I'm still functionally a 16-year-old.
I was going to say I would set the bar closer to 17, 18.
Well, I was allowing for the time when you're like 75 or 80, although I'm pretty sure you start regressing at a certain point.
Okay, so my grandfather, I get into some shenanigans now and then. My grandpa is the king of shenanigans.
Is this the one that was OPT4 and stole a truck?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
100%. Stole a truck and a bunch of machine guns? Yeah, absolutely. I have watched that man just trying to check out at Farm and Fleet convince the checkout lady that he thought his checking account number was his social security number just because he thought it would be funny. So he's rattling off his social security number to a store full of people because that's how they identified me in the Army.
Oh, goodness.
Dude, it's completely off topic. We were in this cafe. All right. We're in this cafe having breakfast. We'd gone up to this lake that my family's been fishing at for like 80 years. And this little cafe. And there's this lady there. And she's ordered pancakes, right? And pancakes come and she starts laying out napkins on herself. And, not like to tuck the napkin in your shirt. She tucked a napkin in her shirt. She put a napkin on her shoulder. She put a napkin on the other shoulder. She started laying them down her shirt strategically. And my grandpa's trying to figure out how she's getting these napkins to stay where they are. And he starts laying out napkins all over himself. He turns around and asks her, he says, how do you get it to work? Is it like the material in your sweater? Halfway through her breakfast, she managed to get strawberry syrup on the one part of her sweater that did not have a napkin on it. And he asked her, he's like, so how's the rest of your day going to go? He just kept pestering her about the napkins. It was hilarious. My wife is correct. My grandpa also continually tries to convince my wife that there is a moose in places where moose do not exist.
Why is everybody's grandparents cooler than mine are?
I mean, when you get to that age, goofing around, why not? What's the consequences? What are they going to do? You're old.
That is a good point. Anyway, I did want to slide back just 1 second because we're showing this sling setup where, you've got a sling attachment point kind of in the optimal position, like up near the top of the buttstock off to one side. I like the opposite side to where the forward attachment point is. That way, if you hold the sling, the gun just stands upright and doesn't try to flop over on its side. But that's personal preference. But the one thing I wanted to point out was that even with the way this other sling is set up, where you have it down at the toe, more the toe area of the buttstock, there's still enough slack in here for me to be able to like sling up with the gun in my shoulder, ready to shoot.
Honestly, I prefer near the toe, but on the same side as the front sling swivel.
That bothers me.
I've not had a problem with it flopping over. At least running ARs when I used to be able to. I never had a problem with it flopping over.
I will happily say though that when we talk about how you set up a sling, like ultimately I will tell you that you can go on like YouTube, Google, and everything else and look at the way different people set it up, try it, and then keep screwing with it until it fits you.
I tell you, when I went to that shotgun class with Andrew, the first time I went up on the line with the shotgun, which was the first time I tried to run a sling shotgun in a tactical shooting class, before we got to the first round fired, I fucking popped the QD points and threw that shit on the other side of the firing line because it was just getting in my way. It was set up all wrong. I spent our first break tuning that in. You're going to do it wrong the first time. Odds are, unless you're really lucky.
No, Stuart, we're not starting over. But I did call you old and grumpy at the very top of the show, so you can rewind it and enjoy it.
And I believe Phil admitted to being wrong about not buying a shotgun sooner.
I admitted to nada. Nothing.
You were wrong.
Admit nothing and make counter accusations. That is the way of the podcast.
I do believe that is politics 101.
That too. But anyway, so like as you move from like this setup towards this setup, like the two things are, yes, you're moving the rear QD point up towards top of the stock, but you're also bringing that forward QD point further back. And this is a personal preference for me, because what I like about this setup where, the sling points are a little further away is that it does give me the ability to use the sling to stabilize the rifle.
True.
And not just while shooting, but also the sling itself, because the attach points are further away from each other, they have more control over the rifle. So if I'm going to drop the rifle, if I'm going to sling it, if I'm going to throw it over my shoulder, have it on my back, it's just all around a more stable platform. When you start moving the QD points closer together, the gun has more movement, which is really handy if you want to transition shoulders, if you're moving in and out of vehicles, if you're doing, I hate to use Magpul buzzwords, but if you're doing more dynamic things with rifles, if you're moving more, then getting those getting the sling attach points closer together makes the gun more mobile at the expense of stability potentially.
True.
Because with that rear sling point as far back as it is in this setup, I can no longer use it. I can't wrap my arm up in it and then slide my hand forward to tension the gun up and use the sling as effectively to stabilize. Not anymore. Not with the sling attach point like 2 inches in front of the mag well. It's a lot more mobile, but it's less stable.
I think it's at this point I have to bring up single point slings and my hatred for their existence, except in one situation. There's one situation that I believe they're useful for. Phil, do you know where I'm at?
Vehicles
and micro rigs. So if you've got like a pistol caliber carbine or say like that Scorpion, all right, single point sling. Guess what happens if you try to run with it using both your hands?
Your testicles hit you.
Yep. Your gun hits you in the dick. Every single time. I have seen guys try to run single point slings in a bunch of classes. Every single one of them gets hit in the nuts with that. If you're a lady, hey, congratulations. Maybe single point slings can work for you.
No, I know ladies who've been hit in the lady bits with things, and that doesn't apparently feel any better for them than it does for us.
Ah, fantastic. Single point slings suck unless you're doing executive protection, close quarters, and vehicles.
Or maybe if you're a eunuch. I mean, maybe then, but I'm not a eunuch and I don't know any. So
I mean, also you have the problem of them twisting up between your legs and tripping you, maybe. I mean, look at your Scorpion here. You've got your sling points so close together, you're getting 90% of the value of a single point sling without getting whacked in the testicles with your firearm.
And that's the reason I snuck this in here, is because on this, the reason why the sling attach points are as close as they are on this is because, first of all, that's where the sling attach points are on a Scorpion.
They are.
And second of all, is that if I attach the rear sling point to the back of that folding brace, then when I fold it, things are moving around in places I don't want them to be. Whereas if I keep the sling attach points on the receiver like they are, and I fold that brace, I can shoot the PC. I can shoot this thing with the brace folded. I can have the brace folded and have it slung around my neck. I mean, this is a really, it is the same setup you saw on that 16-inch carbine pushed to the limit, because the sling attach points are so close together. The gun is extremely mobile. There's no stability provided by the sling whatsoever. And there's not in the way of like a Wayland sling or a hasty sling even.
I'd have to try running it to tell you. I bet I could figure out a way to try to stabilize it fit right, but it definitely wouldn't be as intuitive. But Jeff raises a good point. 3-point slings.
3-point slings.
I've never run one. I've never even tried.
I have for 5 minutes, and then I yeeted that thing over the berm and put a 2-point on it.
2-point slings. From what I've seen, 2-point slings do all the things that 3-point slings claim to, without added complications. That said, have not tried to run one.
The 3-point sling was an answer to a question that I want to say no one asked, but if somebody did ask the question that provoked the 3-point sling, then I hope they got their testicles blown off in a war.
That's aggressive.
It is, and 3-point slings are god-awful pieces of equipment. At least a single point has some justifiable, application where it kind of halfway works and makes sense. But 3-point slings make sense to nobody ever in existence.
Yeah, I don't know. 2-point slings have always done everything I've asked of them, and I've not found a place where a 2-point sling was a problem. Again, I don't do executive protection with a micro Uzi in a vehicle, so.
Yeah, but that's the thing about this setup being as compact as it is, with having a folding brace on it, with having the sling attach points as close to the R. I've literally had this thing slung up over my chest underneath a jacket that was zipped up. I could have unzipped, unfolded, and been ready to shoot in seconds. It's a super, super compact setup. But the reason I put this in here was to illustrate that as the sling attach points come closer and closer together, you begin to get the mobility of a single point sling, but still some of the control of the 2-point. The further apart you spread them, you get less mobility. It does become a little bit more difficult to transition from one arm to another, shoot from really weird positions, but you get more stability over the rifle. So to to the original question that was asked here about how do you integrate modern sling etiquette or modern sling theory into older firearms, like to me, that is going to be your dividing line. Is if you want to use this like in more of a classical fashion where you're going to be using like a hasty sling, you're going to be using the sling to stabilize your shooting from a largely fixed position, sling attach points further apart, it works better. If you're going to be using this in a more dynamic fashion, more running and gunning, you want to be able to transition from one arm to the other, you want to use it like a more of a modern shooting style, sling attach points come closer together, or leave the rear attach point on the back of the stock and move the forward one further back, and that'll give you more mobility.
Yep. Summerside, welcome to the government watch lists. That's all I got to say, man. Your government sucks. I'm in Illinois. I can't really throw shade. My government sucks just as bad. It's just less polite about it.
Yeah. So the best I can tell you is that my heart breaks for some of y'all that live behind the iron curtains of totalitarianism or near totalitarianism. And, you know, other than the fact that there's mosquitoes the size of chickens and a Cat 5 hurricane tries to kill you every 5 or 10 years. And, you know, like the other day, it was 5:30 in the morning. It was 78 degrees and 99% humidity outside. Like, you know, Louisiana's nice. Y'all can come down here. Cool firearm laws. Sportsman's paradise.
Raggle. I don't have universal health care. That's correct. I have all the worst parts of Canada with none of the good parts. And even their good parts, the universal health care I hear is not great.
Yes, but I will say that at least in my limited experience, Canadians are much more polite people than Chicagoans.
Well, you know how you got like Southern hospitality? Well, let's see. Bless your heart. And really, that's a criticism?
Yes.
In Chicago, we just skip right to the criticism.
Okay. So you might have heard us talk about a friend of the show who he took a step back, but we still bump into him occasionally. Name was Matt. He's from your state. Yeah, he was at prepper camp with us one year when he learned for the first time, I want to say deep into his 30s, what bless your heart meant. And that he, for most of his life, he thought Southern people were just being like super freaking sweet and polite. And then he finally realized bless your heart was them saying like, you stupid motherfucker.
Yeah, when my grandma said that, it was usually because she felt too bad to hit you with something.
Anyway, I totally lost my train of thought.
Essentially, what we were talking about, Phil, was the fact that you can make an old school sling setup work like a new style.
You certainly can.
Raggle throwing shade.
Yeah, Raggle has when I'm going to SBR this thing and put a real stock on it. Just as soon as I don't have to ask the ATF permission to take it across state lines, because I live in a free country and I shouldn't have to have a government permission slip to relocate a firearm in my custody from one place to another.
And toss $20 to FPC, guys. They're doing the Lord's work.
They are. I'm not holding my breath, but you know, I do like to be proven wrong. It's the cool thing about having low expectations. I'm either pleasantly surprised or I'm not shocked at all.
They got me concealed carry permits, man.
Yes.
And they're working on Pritzker's fancy little assault weapon ban.
Maybe they should work on his eating habits and blood pressure before that fat
nonsense. He's running for president next time. Have you heard?
It's the first running he's done in his whole life, apparently.
Nonsense. He used to be an athlete.
Power eating is not athleticism.
No, like he was like a high school or college athlete or something. Like that. He really likes to refer to that.
Neither is being a power bottom.
Hey now, power bottoms are very athletic.
You're not making the case using Pritzker as your example.
Nope.
Anyway, I have nothing against
the peer pressure Beretta.
Yes, the pure pressure Beretta. So I threw this in here with a banner. No perfect solutions. So you remember we started off talking about how I don't personally think having the sling swivel on the bottom of the stock, where you're going to find it in a lot of less tactical firearms, I don't feel like it's the end of the world. That's where it is on a Beretta. I did move the forward sling swivel back a little bit. I didn't try to attach that silly little piece of plastic, mostly because I have trust issues. So I put a real legitimate Magpul sling swivel into the M-lock on the handguard, and it's much, much more stable. But I have found so far that as long as I have the and again, this is another Magpul MS1. There's a reason why I have those on so many of my guns. I understand they are like the most basic bitch sling out there. Right. Everyone's run a Magpul MS1. There's nothing cool about them. There's nothing sexy. They are not cute. They're not nice. They will not get you laid by gun buddies, and they will not impress your friends, and they will not get you Instagram points.
But they work.
They work. They're ubiquitous. You can buy them. They work. They do sling things.
I have one on my Beretta.
I don't own anything. I don't own anything in the firearms world that I consider to be like esoteric or really like way out there. Most of the stuff I own is stuff that is like tried and true, and it works and it does what it's supposed to do, and it's well-worn path, and I don't have to wonder about, oh, is this going to fall apart, or oh, is this going to last? Because 200,000 gun guys have tried it before I did, and if it was a piece of crap, we would know about it by now.
I mean, I've yet to wear out a Magpul sling. I've tried.
Yeah. But like I said, I found that with this, having this adjusted to about the right length, I have no problem. Like everything except transitioning. Transitioning does get a little bit weird when
it gets hard.
Yeah, transitioning gets a little weird when your sling is attached to the bottom of the buttstock. When it's at the top, I find that things move around a little bit better. But when it's at the bottom, it sneaks up under your arm and comes across your chest. Like it can be done. It's just not as intuitive. It's not as nice.
You know, having done a few different classes where we were moving through doorways, moving down hallways, entering rooms and stuff like that, I have found very few situations that couldn't be remedied by choking up on the rifle or shotgun, as opposed to switching shoulders. Now, I'm a civilian. I don't have the guaranteed government health care of a police officer or a military person, whatever quality that health care may be. I'm not ever intending to clear a building.
No, but the one thing I can tell you is like in my house specifically, if I need to secure a very specific spot in my home, I have to do it from the left shoulder.
Okay.
Or that's fair. I have to expose this much of my torso.
That's a rough choice. I would go lefty.
So there are situations where it makes 110% good sense to just eat it and switch shoulders. I will say though that like
the shell ejection on the Beretta might get a bit aggressive shooting lefty, but that's a small price to pay.
Small price to pay. I will say this much though, when you start talking about like modern sling theory and having to move from one shoulder to the other and doing things really dynamically, I will say that you can make up for a less than perfect sling length. You can make up for a less than perfect sling swivel location by taking your body out of the sling and just leaving the sling around your neck.
True.
Not optimal, not perfect,
not comfortable,
not as comfortable, but for a specific situation to pie a corner properly, I have to shoot from my opposite shoulder. Just pull your arm down and through and out the sling, leave it around the back of your neck, swivel to the other shoulder, do what you gotta do, and then get back into it just as fast to make, once you break cover and move. Like there are ways to do this, and to your point about choking up on the gun, everyone's heard that argument of I need like an 8-inch SBR so I can go through doorways. I'm telling you right now, I learned to do vehicle operations in an armored Humvee with a 20-inch M16A2. It can be done.
I did a number of room clearing classes with a 20-inch AR. Yeah, I didn't have any problems dipshitting into the door trim.
No, it's very doable. It takes practice, and
does.
and it takes a little bit of technique. It takes slipping the buttstock out of your shoulder and down under your armpit. It takes sometimes.
I preferred up over my shoulder.
I was gonna say that's another technique, and I've done it both ways. I find it depends on what I'm doing.
Absolutely does. But I've found that as far as getting back on the gun quick and getting onto a target quick, if you're up over your shoulder and your line of sight is directly down that gun barrel, guess what? I'm on target. And I can, with my wrist jacked up like this, I can handle a recoil of a 223 just fine. Most people can.
I guess my point is like, regardless of how you decide to do that, whether you like put some extra slack in the sling so you can transition one shoulder to another, whether you hang it around the back of your neck, whether you choke it above your shoulder, under your shoulder, like all these different techniques are out there and they're accessible. I always tell a shooter, like, you have to be willing to experiment and figure out what works for you. And that starts with how to mount the sling, where to mount the sling attachment points, how to run the sling, how much slack. Because to me, the proof is always going to be in the pudding of what works. Like,
Big
you will have
push there for a training class.
Yes. The internet will tell you there is only one the internet will tell you there's a million perfect ways to do something, and
all of them are absolutely correct.
Yes, and each person you speak to is the absolute authority on the correct way for you to do something when they've never met you and have no idea what shape you are or size you are. That's why I tell you, practice it, train with it, do it on the clock, do it in a training class, do it at a range, do it dry firing around your house, preferably when your wife and kids aren't around because they'll look at you funny. Don't ask me how I know.
Yeah.
But practice it, and you will learn very, very quickly. This sling is too damn small. I need to put some more length into it, or it is way too big. I like it's just hanging off me. I can't use it for stability, or I really want this sling attachment point like back a couple of inches, or I want it forward a couple of inches, or I want to run it a different way. You will learn your body and your body mechanics, and to a degree, your training habits will tell you. Like to the point Nick and I just went through, where he said he prefers to put his buttstock above his shoulder versus me like to put it below my shoulder.
For an AR, for a 12 gauge, don't do that.
Yeah, no. For a 12 gauge,
do not do that
under your armpit every single time.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing. I've run both ways. I think there's a good argument to be made, depending on the situation, to do it both ways. Nick and I had a whole conversation several months ago about over the top of the receiver loading versus under the receiver loading for a shotgun.
Yeah. And see, I've messed up my wrist a few times. I cannot do underneath. I can't do underneath.
You can't do underneath.
Yeah.
And here's the thing of it.
I've got a bone to pick with Stuart now.
The best shotgun guy in the world. The Hot Family, the guys from SimTag, doesn't matter. Pick your trainer. The best shotgun guy in the world could tell Nick the best way to do this is load from underneath, but his body mechanics do not allow that.
Yeah, the way my wrist is jacked up, I can't twist my wrist in that direction.
Yeah. Now, me personally, I can do it from below. I can do it from above. I practice both ways. But like I told Nick, I'm like, I used to do it above a lot, but I had to reteach myself to do it from below when I put the red dot on top of my shotgun. Because now you would think that red dot would just be a nice index point, like put it on your palm and drop your fingers just drop right into the chamber. But for some reason, putting that red dot on top of the chamber, I miss the chamber more often now.
And this is why you got to train with your gear. So. All right, I got to disagree with Stuart on this one. He says in a home defense scenario, won't be using a sling. I think slings are even more critical in a home defense scenario. What happens if they get hands on your gun? Can you guarantee that you are strong enough to retain control of that weapon? Because I bet you there are damn few people on this planet that can pull apart a Magpul sling while it's strapped around my body.
Can I intone to you a story that was told to me by a drill sergeant who was infantry?
I'm welcome to being wrong, but man, for retention, it's hard to beat a sling.
So he was specifically asked this question in base training by a private. To his credit, he didn't smoke the hell out of all of us. He answered it truthfully. Exactly what he did was he looked at us and he said, "How hot do you think a barrel gets after you rack off half a magazine?" And the
Very.
private said, "Very." And he said, "I can promise you that if somebody grabs the end of my barrel and I pop off 10 rounds in quick succession, he's still holding on to it, he can have the damn thing. He deserves it."
That's fair. I suppose where I'm at is, okay, so you're me. You're in the house. You're holding your position. Grabs hold of the gun. What if you freeze up for half a second?
Now, see, I don't know that I would take a strong stance on this. I would only say that me personally, I've trained to be able to secure this house from a variety of points.
Gotta say this though, Stuart, that's fair. If the way your house is set up, that is an impossibility, fair enough. Disregard me.
Yeah. I would just say this much. I've trained to, I wouldn't say I ever want to have to clear the house by myself. I really don't want to have to. Like, clearing a house structure by yourself is a really, really bad decision.
Clearing a structure by yourself is a recipe for Sister Fire and a Molotov cocktail through the window.
Yeah.
Let it clear itself.
There are situations under which I would do it if I had to. Like, if my daughter's at one end of the house, my wife's at the other, and I have to get them co-located, like, I will do what I have to do. But there's
right. So that's a situation I'm not in. We're a house of just 2 adults and a dog. We don't have a child.
But if you had your wife in one room and the dog at the other end of the house, somebody broke in the front door.
It's hard.
Yeah. But like I said, to me, I've never been in a situation moving through this house even with a long gun where being slung up stopped me or slowed me down much. You know what I'm saying? Fair. So to me, I don't know that I want to take the hardline stance of sling prevents problems, but it's like sling doesn't create problems. So why would I not use the sling that's on the gun? Because every long gun in this house has a sling.
In my opinion, and this is all it is, it's my opinion, sling prevents issues more than it creates.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about it. I've never had a problem maneuvering with a slung gun because all my classes have been done with a slung gun. It's all I know.
Although Stuart is 600 years old.
He is. He was from around before slings were equipped on firearms.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Stuart did have to tell Christopher Columbus which way to sail to make it here. So
turns out east. West, 1 or 2.
Holy Jesus, Nick.
Depends on where he was going. Hey, he was trying to get to the east.
Well, he screwed that all up.
Well, no, he just hit a diversion that was full of enslavable peasants.
Well, so was Europe at that point.
Full of enslavable peasants or hitting diversions?
Yes. Full of enslavable peasants.
That's fair.
Anyway, so like that's my whole spiel on slings, even though we did this slideshow largely out of order. You know, like, to me,
the slides are more for convenience than anything.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, my big thing is, if you want to apply a modern sling theory to an older firearm, there are certainly ways. I mean, it really just comes down to, like, my first question would be, like, how do you intend to use the firearm? And let that drive your decision on how do you attach that sling, how close together are those sling attachment points. And then from there, you're literally just talking about, like, where do I sink the screw or where do I attach things? Or listen, I've seen slings literally like a piece of webbing wrapped around like where you normally grip, like a, you know, like, what do you call it? Like a traditional, like a shotgun or a rifle stock, right? Where you normally grab it, have not the pistol grip, but what's the name for that part of a stock, Nick? Help me out. You know things.
Blanking.
But I've seen slings literally
Words are not my strong suit.
Wrapping a piece of webbing around that and just tightening it up real tight.
Man, I have seen slings ghetto attached with hockey tape around the fore end.
Paracord is becoming popular for slings. Yes.
It comes and goes. Just like those paracord waist wristbands and paracord belts, it comes and goes in popularity. I mean, do I see the advantage of a paracord sling that you could take apart? Sure. You could also just keep 100 feet of paracord in your backpack.
He might be talking about like a loop of paracord around some part of the weapon to attach a sling to it.
Oh, maybe.
So,
Raggle, clarify.
so I don't know how visible this is, but this is a Strike Industries sling. They actually don't make this anymore, which is kind of annoying.
It's a little Kevlar strand, isn't it, that holds it to the gun?
Yep. Each end has a little loop of Kevlar reinforced nylon, and you literally run it through your sling attach point and then, loop it back through itself, and it secures like that. And it was like the perfect solution for these tiny little sling attach points. Oh, I see what you mean. Like a whole sling made out of not.
Yeah, woven like those paracord bracelets you used to see at the gun shows all the time. Yeah, I've seen those.
Those annoy me for perfectly irrational reasons.
Well, I mean, I get having extra cordage with you. I get having cordage with you all the time. I keep a hank of paracord in my truck. I keep a hank of paracord in all my backpacks. My wife's hiking backpack has a hank of paracord in it. I don't know if she knows that, but it's there.
If it becomes necessary, she'll appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like I said, that's my whole spiel on like slings. I think
arts and crafts. That's fair.
I think that at the end of the day, when you get to talking about slings, I always say that like there's 100 ways to do that, and there's probably only about 5 that are truly wrong. Everything else is just degrees of right and what's best for your situation, your use case, and everything else. Thank you, Stuart. It was wrist. Wrist was what I was looking for.
Okay, yeah, the wrist of the stock. Yes.
I couldn't conjure that freaking word out of my brain bank.
God, and Nick, I wanted it to be a more complicated term than that. Man, I am not a word of a fire. I'm a steel cutter.
It wasn't. I didn't want to say pistol grip because it wasn't a pistol grip.
It's not a bird's head, because a bird's head's what happens when you do a sawed off in a felony.
Yeah. Felonies are fun, but they're felonies for reasons, apparently.
Apparently, fun is bad.
Fun is against the law.
Although cannons are not against the law. I'm not sure about our Canadian compatriot here, but if you're in the signal chat, let me know if cannons are illegal in Canada, because if you get in the Secret Santa, I might send you a cannon. You never know.
I just remembered a meme that I showed my wife and it made me giggle. It said, everything I like is blonde, expensive, or illegal.
Accurate. I'm not a fan of blondes. Never have been.
Well, my wife had just dyed her hair blonde.
Ah, that makes sense.
So, but definitely expensive and illegal.
Yeah, tell me about it. There was a time there where you could eBay a top-of-the-line Russian Russian modern main battle tank direct from Ukraine. Could not clear that one past the checking account or my wife.
So which one was putting the hardest no on you, Nick?
Definitely my wife. I have an excellent credit score. And what are they going to do? Repossess the tank? I have a tank. Raggle, I absolutely saw the I absolutely saw the tank pulling the plow after the Ukrainian farmers stole it. Oh, yes. You can't have cannons? Okay. Make sure if you do end up in the patron chat and you do end up in the Secret Santa draw at some point, you make that very clear, because I may do a Canadian felony if you don't, and I get you for Secret Santa.
But is Summer Side of Life even a patron? I'm not sure.
I don't know, but if they ever become one, or if any Canadians are out there and they do become patrons and they do get in the Secret Santa exchange, warn me ahead of time, or I will accidentally do a Canadian felony.
Yeah. I wonder if he can have a flamethrower, because those are also a lot of fun.
Well, given the Canadians' penchant for war crimes, I'm hoping yes.
Perhaps. Anyway, let's go ahead and roll this one out. I don't want to make it like an Italian goodbye, but I mean, like we always say, that this came about because one of the listeners asked a question, and a seemingly innocuous question spawned a minor argument, which is how podcasts start. Yeah. But we're always up for listener questions, and in particular patron questions, and occasionally we're bullied into taking on topics. So if you're curious about something or just want to hear an opinion or a deep dive or some tism, Instagram messages, Matter of Facts podcast contact form, Signal chat. You can leave comments on these YouTube videos or in Rumble. Sooner or later, we'll probably see it.
Yep. And if we don't, just yell at us louder.
Yes, and repeatedly.
Yeah, that works very well. That's how we got Phil to buy a shotgun.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
I know, and you're going to work on me on night vision.
Oh, it's coming.
Oh,
It's
I
coming.
know. And I've already got a set picked out.
I'm not even going to work on you, though. I'm going to work on your wife.
Oh, that's the dangerous part, because that would be so easy.
Rachel, we need to talk about stargazing with the PVS 14.
There was a meteor shower we missed out on because I did not have night vision.
Didn't I show you the videos I shot of a meteor shower that was down here with the PVS 14?
Definitely showed them to me, yeah.
Was it not?
In suburbia. Oh,
yeah.
dude.
It was a
phenomenal pictures.
Yep. Oh, summer side of life, night vision I can have here. Well, there's a little bit of fun to be had.
Hey, man, if you rule the night, you're going to win, no matter what your equipment is.
Yep.
Can't shoot what you can't see. Well, unless you have a minigun.
Suppressive fire is suppressive.
It is.
All right. Matter of Facts podcast is going to go out the door. Phil and Nick are going goodbye. Andrew didn't show up, so I'm going to bully him later, and we'll be back another week. Good night, everybody.
Night.